It's summer 2001, and the PlayStation 2 has been out for almost a year now. You've had plenty of time to burn through all of the amazing launch titles that came out alongside the system. So what now? That's easy. You follow up your playthrough of Armored Core 2 with the recently released expansion, Armored Core 2: Another Age. And luckily, Another Age continues the Armored Core mechanic of allowing you to transfer your save from the previous game, meaning that you can keep all of your parts and money that you got in AC2. And what awaits us in this newest entry in the Armored Core series? It might not be what you expect. Also, here's your quick spoiler warning. Granted, there's not much in the way of story to Another Age, so feel free to keep watching if you don't mind the minor spoilers that there are going to be here. While Armored Core 2 knitted together a series of missions into a strong story covering the conflicts of Mars and how Leos Klein tried to drop an alien satellite on the planet with the help of his Special Frighteners unit, Another Age pulls us away from such world-shattering conflicts. Instead, we are but a simple raven on Earth. We travel where the money is, picking up missions from anyone with the funds to hire us. And there's plenty of work to be had on Earth. It's been 5 years since Klein's failed coup, and the government and corporations are both working to regain the power they lost during the Frighteners conflict. To that end, there's more exploration of the surface world as the Earth government continues with its plans to migrate the population of the underground cities above ground. But with this comes opposition from the citizens that don't want to relocate to the Earth's surface. This results in the creation of the Indies, a rebel group that is attempting to take over control of the Earth from the government and the corporations. In the midst of all of this is us, a raven not allied to any one force and of no import. And Another Age hammers this home with some of the changes that it introduces. That includes an unnamed operator acting as our support, no email system to progress the story, and no arena to win glory in. I think my wife put it best whenever she was watching me play and said, "So this is an Armored Core game where you play a raven that isn't the main character." And that's a fitting way to describe how the game treats us. We aren't special, there is no extra information we're privy to, and there is no motivation for us to take missions except for more money to fuel our AC parts addiction. While this is definitely a different experience from previous Armored Core games, it does come with its own type of charm. And of course, that doesn't mean there is no story in Another Age. Instead, it's mostly small localized events across the continent the game takes place on. See, instead of a simple mission screen, we get to navigate to different areas via a world map and take on missions there. Each one of these areas have their own little subplots going on. It's mostly typical stuff you would expect, like one side hiring us to attack a corporation's base, and then getting immediately hired by another corporation after that for a retaliatory attack. But one thing that is interesting is how Another Age acts more like a sequel to the first generation of Armored Core games instead of Armored Core 2. And let me explain what I mean. Armored Core 2 separates itself from the prior generation by taking place on Mars. But in AC Another Age, the events take place on Earth once more. And that gives us some fun callbacks to the Gen 1 games that are more environmental than flat-out story. For example, players will notice that Old Amber Crown is one of the areas listed on the game's map, which is where the majority of the events in Armored Core Project Phantasma took place. There's also one mission where we have to eliminate bioweapons deep in an underground facility. That's a callback to one of the missions from the first Armored Core, and these creatures may even be descendants or variants of the ones that we previously fought. I also initially thought that this was the tank we took out in Master of Arena, but after looking through my footage, I think it's more likely to be a derelict spaceship as it looks similar to those in the opening of Armored Core 2. But Another Age isn't just a bunch of callbacks to the first gen AC games. No, it has loads of missions in all new areas. In fact, it's the most in the series at 100 missions, with 92 in the campaign and 8 in Versus mode. Unfortunately, I didn't get to do much with the Versus missions. I loaded them up, and it's a neat system of having each player act as a raven on opposite sides of conflicts. Each player can even load their own data from memory cards. However, my friends have long moved past these old Armored Core games, and probably don't even have their PS2 memory cards anymore, so there really wasn't much for me to do here. I'll also just mention real quick that Armored Core 2: Another Age is the first game in the series to have online play, but it only came out in Japan, so we didn't get that in the States, which kinda sucks. But that doesn't change the fact that the main campaign of Another Age still features 92 missions to complete, and the immense variety of these missions is great. There are plenty that are what players are going to expect, like go here, destroy this, take down an enemy raven, and repeat. But blended into this are some truly interesting ideas that require players to really customize their ACs for the mission at hand. Let's talk about a few of those. Two areas worth noting are Kolnart Bay City and the Arcot Ocean. Both of these areas include missions that take place in open waters. That means that players are going to want to be equipped with hover legs to avoid the missteps that can lead them to a watery grave. There are also some missions set in the Arcot Ocean that will never have the Raven seeing land, or water for that matter. These missions instead have them traveling high in the skies. Two of these focus on protecting transport planes from incoming attacks by enemy fighter jets, but it's the last one that stuck out the most to me. In this mission, players are dropped onto a fleet of planes that they have to take out. Destroying the planes while on top of them and then having to jump and boost over to another plane to avoid falling to your doom is such a cool experience. I even had this moment where I messed up and I wasn't going to make it to the next plane I needed to. To avoid failing the mission, I activated my limiter release and used it to land on a lower plane. After suffering the expected system overload that left me crippled for a short period of time, I destroyed the plane I was riding on and activated limiter release once more and used it to fly up to the plane that I initially missed. That allowed me to destroy all of the planes without failing the mission. It was one of those moments that really immersed me in the lifestyle of being a Raven and doing whatever it takes to survive. And some missions really like to mix it up, like making sure that your AC has enough boost to get through certain areas. Another is a complete stealth mission where you have to take out enemies fast and undetected. Yet again, the focus on having to frequently change up ACs for different situations was something that I really enjoyed about Another Age. It was often akin to solving a puzzle to see that mission objective achieved message. Of course, Another Age also adds in some dang tough missions that are going to really require the player to show off their skills. There are quite a few instances where our Raven will find himself having to tackle two other Ravens at once. And in one of these cases, I only won with a last-ditch mine that just happened to defeat the final Raven. But I can't forget the mission where I had to take on 3 Ravens at the same time. This was insanely difficult, and another case of me having to try out multiple different builds until I settled on one that worked for me. There was a lot of maintaining distance, relying on rockets, and hiding behind buildings to control the fight in such a way that I didn't get surrounded by all of the enemy ACs at once. It's also another instance where it really hammered home that Raven feeling of having to fight for your life with the odds stacked against you. But that doesn't mean it was the hardest mission in the game. There are a few others that show up and really stick it to the player. There's this one mission where a rogue Raven has been taking down all sorts of other Ravens, and is dragging down the reputation of one of the corporations. Not wanting to deal with this problem anymore, they hire us, alongside 2 other Ravens, to take care of this threat. Alright, cool. Don't know as if I've ever had a time where an AC game put me alongside other Ravens to fight a single AC. I wonder what this one has to offer. No. Yeah, the general fear that rose within me whenever I saw the codename for this mission was Hustler 1 is hard to explain. To the point that I even thought to myself, maybe it's just a copycat and not the real 9-ball. And then I entered the room to see my ally ACs already destroyed and 9 started playing, and I knew I was in trouble. So much trouble, in fact, that I ended up skipping this mission for a while and doing others before coming back to it. Which is one of the unique features of setting up the mission system the way Another Age does as compared to the mostly linear options from prior AC games. And it does help take the stress out of the game a bit. It lets you cool down after a few failed attempts and take on other missions, which means you still get to make progress in the game and come back to kick 9-ball's mechanical teeth in once you're ready. It helps reset your brain, kind of like how you can get stuck on a part of a game, go to sleep, and then do it in 1 or 2 shots the next morning, which is more refreshing than just beating your head against a wall over and over again until you win, or give up on making any progress until after you take a break. After we put 9-ball to rest for good, we eventually come to one of the biggest events in the game. A Raven by the name of Antares hired us to take out the security detail of the Rapture space elevator, only for the Earth government to turn around after this and hire us to kick him out of the captured facility. The simple gist of it is that he's one of the top Ravens of Mars, and while we don't know his motivations, he does tell us it's a personal matter. This is one of those missions that starts with an AC fight and then leads into a second fight against Antares and Carlisle, another Raven working for him, who is also the cover art Raven for this game and is in the opening cinematic. We do fortunately get our AC repaired and rearmed before that second fight, but Antares and his companion are no pushovers. It takes a lot of chain gun ammo and fire, but the two do eventually go down. And while that does trigger the end credits of Another Age, our work as a Raven isn't done just yet. The Earth government is impressed by the skills we've shown throughout our various missions and is requesting help. They've discovered a new area called the Lost Field, and they want us to explore it. Specifically, there are enemies there that are impeding their progress in fully surveying the location. Considering that these are secret missions after the credits roll, I will give another quick spoiler warning just in case you don't want these ruined for you. And that's because we're about to see some familiar faces in the Lost Field. Our first venture into the location pits us against Stinger and his Vixen AC. If you've played the Gen 1 games or watched my prior reviews, you know that Stinger is the rival AC we battle multiple times in Armored Core Project Phantasma. And this version of Stinger appears to be an AI duplicate, not the real thing. He does try to talk to us, but his words come out garbled by static. Or maybe this is the real Stinger alive after turning himself into Data at the end of Project Phantasma. Who's to say? No matter the case, he's in the way of the Earth government, and it is our job to take him down. Stinger is definitely one of the more difficult one-on-one battles in Another Age with his rapid-fire rifle, barrage of laser fire, and heavy-hitting grenade launcher. But with enough care and watching for openings, we do put him back in the ground. Or at least we thought we did. Turns out there's a new foe waiting for us in the Lost Field, Phantasma. Just like before, Stinger appears to have combined with the War Machine and stands in our way. While we don't have finger machine guns to burn Phantasma down fast this time around, it still ends up exploding into pieces without too much effort. And if I'm being honest, it's not really clear at all what is happening at the Lost Field. Why Stinger is here, why there's a new version of Phantasma, or really what the place is all about. But maybe our final journey to this desolate arena can enlighten us on these matters. It's you again. I should have known I wouldn't get away with just fighting Nineball in the old decrepit AC he was piloting earlier. Nope, now he's ready to battle once more with his upgraded Nineball Seraph unit. I'm not gonna lie, it took me about half an hour of attempts and changing out AC parts before I finally found a build that worked for me. I used hover legs and overboost to maintain a good distance between me and Nineball, and I made use of dual grenade launcher arms to deal heavy damage to him during the times where he remained on the ground to attack me. So how exactly does this tie into all of the rest of the story in Another Age? It's not really clear. It does confirm that Nineball is still active even after his computer was destroyed in Armored Core 1, which lines up with my theory about his role in the events of Armored Core 2. And obviously, he still has the ability to control various AC units since he shows up in an old AC and an updated version of his Seraph unit. But there's not much more to it than that. Part of me wonders if there wasn't supposed to be a second expansion to Armored Core 2 like how we had 3 games in the Gen 1 series, and that it would have built out this idea more. Especially with the end credits having the government say that we are the Raven that will bring forth a new age. But I also think that maybe this was pointing directly to Armored Core 3 as the next step in the series. If you don't know, there's a bit of debate among Armored Core fans about the timeline. FromSoft has said that there are multiple timelines, with Another Age being the end of the original. However, there are enough links and nods between the timelines that some fans believe Armored Core is actually one large timeline. I'm among them, as I think all of the games are connected, even if From Software is never likely to confirm this. Oh well, at least beating Nineball Seraph awards us with a new set of hover legs and a new shoulder weapon that launches bits to attack enemies. I tried these out and the bits are really powerful. Using just them, I was able to take down one of the early mission ACs without much effort. I've gotta say, after playing through all 92 of the solo missions available in Another Age, this is the toughest Armored Core game I've reviewed so far. I'll be interested to see how I feel about it after playing Last Raven again. I haven't touched that entry in 12 years, and I remember it being really, really hard. And while Another Age is hard, it feels incredibly fair, especially with its system of not charging the player when they fail a mission. That means you don't have to worry about going into debt and having to restart the game or save scumming to avoid that. It's much more forgiving than I expected or remembered. The only thing it does affect is your win/lose percentage in your Raven profile, but that doesn't really have an effect on the game, unless it's just a matter of pride. Another Age also brings with it more of that great Armored Core music that I've come to love so much throughout these reviews. I really didn't appreciate just how great the soundtracks in these games were whenever I was playing through them as a kid. But now that I'm an adult, I can just tell that they are packed full of bangers and they become regular things for me to listen to. To show my personal taste, Plasmatic, The Groove, and Act Zero Driver are my favorite tracks this time around. I also enjoy the return of several classic AC songs in this entry. Armored Core 2: Another Age is a strange game to score. Its lack of story does do some harm to it, but the idea of living life as a normal Raven is still an interesting idea that I did enjoy. I also liked that it focused more on short stories across its world, and that it also allowed it to create a more open mission structure this time around, which is another plus. Add in a large number of missions and all of the unique variety between them, and I don't think it's ridiculous to say that Another Age is the best bang for your buck the series offers. The lack of story might tempt you to skip this entry, but if you enjoy the gameplay in Armored Core, then this is some of the best there is in the franchise with its mix of interesting levels and missions. And with that, we close out the second generation of Armored Core games. That means the next time we return to the series will be with a retrospective of Armored Core 3, and that will put us down the long road that is the third generation of Armored Core games with 6 in it. Seriously, FromSoft put out so many freaking AC games on the PS2 that it's downright impressive. And that's not even getting into all of the other non-AC games that they also put out this console generation. It really highlights just how much things have changed in the game industry over the last 20 years, with releases coming much less frequently. Thanks for sticking around with me for this review of Armored Core 2: Another Age, and until next time, take it easy.